Hope y'all can hear me. Whew, it's getting a little more dicey out here, and it took forever to get my microphone set up. But yeah, I figured I'd make a YouTube video about riding this fun as hell electric unicycle out in the winter time. Show you that it does work and I don't lose traction. Man, I've been riding these for about 6 months, and it's the most fun thing I've ever had. It is absolutely the best, especially as a college student. I can just bring it in my classes with me, just roll it up the stairs, roll it in the class, set it down. It works perfectly. It's 110 pounds. It's a heavy boy, but it's got so much power that it can roll itself up any stairs and bring me wherever I want to go. I barely notice it now. I can roll it and ride it one-footed everywhere. It's just absolutely the best. But that's not what this video is about. I figured I'd make a video about just riding this thing in the winter, because I live in Grand Minnesota, beautiful Minneapolis, and it gets really fucking cold out here, man. Everything's frozen over. I did not plan for it to be snowing today, but it decided to make it the perfect time for a video. So the main thing I want to know is about winter gear. I was looking at videos about this. Not that many people have that many videos. I think whatever Freshly Charged might have had a good one, but in general, not a ton of videos and not a ton of great suggestions in my opinion. So I figured I'd go over kind of the stuff that I found, and this would probably be most helpful if you are preparing for the winter because you live in a cold state and you want to keep riding this. And I'll say it absolutely can. It just comes with some more challenges that you have to figure out. And the biggest first thing I'd say is actually beyond the gear. You're probably going to care about your unicycle first, and the first thing is changing out that tire. So I have the Begode ET Max, which is an amazing, wonderful unicycle, and one of the biggest things you have to care about when you go in the winter, where everything's going to be frozen and snowed over, is that tire. It all matters about your contact patch with the ground for whether you slip. Within the first week, I slipped about 3 or 4 times. Luckily, nothing in dangerous situations, but that's because I was riding a stock street tire with the Begode ET Max, and that's not ideal for this. So I ended up switching it to, I think there's a Michelin, I'll put it up. I can't remember what the exact name was, but it's one of these knobby tires with a bunch of knobs in them. And I think that helped. I don't think it helped a crazy amount. Like I now have infinite grip as opposed to riding previously. I still have to be a little careful in some spots, but it's definitely better, and it definitely gives me more traction with the ground. Another upgrade you can do that people suggest is to put these spiked, tire spikes in your wheel. I didn't end up doing this because I was afraid that I'm like bringing this around indoors all the time, and I don't want those spikes to be ruining the floors and making a lot of noise. So I haven't done this. And usually my strategy is that when it is really slippery and snowy like this, I actually just ride with my feet kind of touching the ground just like this. And I think that helps a lot with the traction, not with the traction, but just making me, decreasing the amount of torque I can put on the wheel at one time, and making me feel a little more secure with the ground, kind of probe how slippery it is, as well as try to be able to catch myself a little bit if it starts slipping, which usually it's not slipping. I think I've just gotten pretty lucky so far. But yeah, usually that works pretty well. Another thing that I like about the ET Max is that it's got a spring suspension, which I think helps a little bit decrease the change in the suspension performance over the winter. But a big thing is that it's not perfect. And I definitely feel the suspension and stiffen up a lot when I start like bouncing up and down while I'm going. And then just some wrapping up stuff about the actual unicycle performance itself. Make sure you have a waterproof one. This snow is going to get into all the cracks and it's going to melt, and that's going to create water. So far I've had no problems with the ET Max. It's held up to its water rating that it had. And then another thing I'm concerned about a little bit, and especially in Minnesota, is that they put salt all over the road. So I'm a little concerned about rust. So I got this de-rusting / lubricant, rust off, rustable, something like that. I'll throw up a link. That I think helps a little bit, but it's not as bad. I don't think the concerns is as bad as the electric skateboard I rode around all winter last time. Now I'm talking about the gear. So the biggest thing is to stay warm while you're riding, and you're going to have a lot of air hitting you. So the part I'll start off with is actually the snow pants here. So I have these snow pants from I forget what the company name is. I think I'm going to forget the company name for a lot of this stuff. I didn't do a lot of pre-planning and things. But what I love about these snow pants is that they have a zipper. So that allows me to be able to just take them off once I get indoors without having to take off my boots. And that's extremely helpful to me because my boots are kind of the lace tie-up ones that can take a while to get on and off. So it's a lot easier for me to just undo a few Velcro straps and then just unzip the pants and have them come right off than to have to take off my shoes and then pull off my pants. And it also looks a little bit less awkward. Now these pants also have the protective padding on the knee, very important when you're riding these electric unicycles. So if you go down, you're not going to break your kneecaps. And then otherwise, they're just very warm. They got the lighting strips. You could kind of wait out until your bottom half is feeling a little bit too chilly while riding before picking these up. But in general, I think it's a very worthwhile purchase. And after it gets below around 40 degrees or so, my torso gets really chilly, especially when riding at higher speeds. So I found these very important for that. Moving down a little bit, we got the boots. These I did not get particularly for unicycling, but they work very well. Just like waterproof, insulated winter boots with plenty of grip on the bottom for gripping onto the pedals while not letting air pass through. So then, that has the side effect of your feet will get a little bit sweaty, but a big thing is that it'll stop that cold air from outside getting into the boot and freezing your toes. So that helps a lot. And if I had some option that wasn't laced, I'd probably choose that, but also making them go up high to both protect your ankle and also protect that from the cold. Also very important parts of that. Moving on up, we got the torso. So my favorite outfit is, I'll kind of unzip here. So I got like three things. I got a t-shirt and then I put a sweatshirt, which is kind of my typical wear. And then I actually just have my regular summer, very holy, porous, Alpine Stars Bionic Action V2 armor. So I absolutely love this armor for the summer because it absolutely lets all the air through. I feel like I'm wearing nothing and I don't get too hot. But in the winter, I have this jacket that is kind of for my motorsports team. So that's why it's a little branded. But this is just one of those rain jackets, kind of windbreaker kind of jackets that just doesn't really let any air or water through. And that just happens to be super effective for just not letting any of the wind through. And since it's kind of spaced out a bit by the armor, I don't really need extra warm layers. I don't need really thick body armor, and this really works really well for me. So that's kind of the whole gist of the armor. I actually have a tether attached to the back of my armor here. I prefer to ride tethered because I'm on a college campus with like tons of people on certain areas, and I don't want to accidentally have a case where I fall off my unicycle and the unicycle goes rolling into a crowd of people. I'd prefer to just give it that little push of force to fall over. You can argue about tethers and some other sort of video, but that's just kind of why I wear it. After that, kind of going up a little bit, I've covered the torso and area, but then talking a little bit about the gloves and such. These are just typical, usual winter gloves that have the capacitive, the parts that I can touch my phone through. These are just pretty standard. They work really well. And then right on top of it, I have the protective padding that comes from eWheels. This isn't actually from eWheels. I ended up getting I kind of lost those, so I ended up just getting an off-brand one that's just cheaper and works just as well. But I prefer to, have this padding outside of the glove. Some other options you can consider is the gloves with the built-in protective sliding pads. I do find the sliding pads very important to help you slide along the ground. I wouldn't want to wear leather gloves and have those get caught when you hit the ground and then pull back. That's something I really fear that I think really differentiates this from motorcycling. I actually would get the kind of gloves that have the padding integrated into them. But the big problem with that is that that's really freaking expensive. I think the only ones I really found is like these ones on screen that look good. And those are like $100 when this setup is like $20 max. So I take the extra like 10-15 seconds to strap on the wrist guards right outside of the gloves, and it works perfectly fine for me. All right, then moving on up to the head. Otherwise, I just have this kind of, what do you call it, neck face mask here that I use for both summer and winter. Well, for the summer, I like to use just like the biker's cap kind of part that just goes around the top of your skull. This one, this is just kind of windproof, sweat absorbent, face mask to put around. It just a very thin line. It just works really well. I just slide it over and then slide my helmet on over that. I've had no issues with that setup so far, other than it can kind of get a little cold around the neck area. So I just zip my sweatshirt up all the way to the top every time to get that kind of covered as much as possible. And then for the helmet, this is just a $70 Amazon dual sport helmet with a visor. I do find that part very important. The visor to be able to, when it's really cold and the air is kind of blowing in your face, you do not want your eyes kind of just fresh exposed to that. It also, if it's raining or snowing or something, that can really affect your ability to ride safely and directly where you want to go. So I found the visor very important. This one also kind of has a sun visor integrated, which I kind of use during the summer. Of course, don't use in the winter at all. And would I recommend this helmet very much? I think this is a great all year round helmet if you just want to get one helmet. But I think there are better helmet setups for the winter. Because my main issue with this one is that it fogs up really quick. Maybe I'll... You can see, I can't see shit, all right? I'll take that off. Also, having glasses doesn't really help with that very much. If you can get some sort of anti-fog visor that actually works, most of the ones on Amazon that say they're going to work aren't actually going to work. I know there's stickers that also help with it. I haven't really tried those too far. Getting one of those can really help with the winter time. Also, my helmet setup, I'll kind of show a helmet setup that I intended to use for this winter. Now that helmet setup works very well at allowing me to see. I think in general ski goggles are going to work much better in the winter than having a fold down visor like this. Just because they're not going to let the moist air from your nose and your mouth go straight into your eyes, and instead it's going to go elsewhere. I actually use heated goggles, which work even better at keeping that fog out. My problem is that I just think that helmet looks really ugly and is pretty uncomfortable. And such. Both those two factors, there's a general philosophy with gear, but you want to make gear as easy to put on as possible and look good. So then generally you're going to use it. I personally think that it's better to, spend a little bit more to get these features, than to kind of cheap out all the time, just because, gear that you buy that you don't use is completely useless and it's not going to protect you. So I think it's very important to get the stuff that you're actually going to use, and I think that would be a part of that. In this case, this helmet didn't really fit my needs, and I didn't end up using it as much. And kind of with that kind of covers all the winter-specific gear that I put on. I don't think I do too much more other than kind of watch the time that I choose to ride. I prefer to ride more during the day so I can see the ground that I'm riding on, but luckily I live in a city where it doesn't snow that often, and a lot of the times the roads are salted over and dry, so it's still pretty safe to ride fast. I'll just talk a little bit about the lighting, though. Lighting is also pretty important, when you're riding at any time, in the night, which I do frequently. I kind of just have a red light at the back here, and then I have this electroluminescent sidebar lighting, which I think looks really cool and works very well at allowing me to be seen kind of around the face area, not just the back. I kind of have a tail light at the back of my unicycle here that kind of makes it brighter than just the regular light. And then I also have two lights on my backpack that I sometimes turn on if I want even more visibility at night. And also, for anybody curious, the kind of side attachments I put on my helmet, this is just a camera, kind of a dash camera meant for motorcycle helmets and such. I think it's only $40-50 or maybe even cheaper than that. But it just allows me to, kind of when I'm in more dangerous situations or when I'm door dashing, I can get footage of everything, make sure I can always go back to that footage. And then the other part is just a light for when I'm having issues with my ET Max's light, which unfortunately sometimes I do with trying to flip it down in the right position. Sometimes it gets stuck and my gloves are just kind of too hard, make it too difficult to flip it back in the right position, okay, I got it now. So the light kind of helps being an extra lighting source, as well as an emergency backup in those cases. All right, that's all for kind of winter gear. I wish you the best in buying the winter gear you need to ride your electric unicycle. These things are fun as hell, and there's no reason to give them up if you don't want to. I don't have a car, so it's kind of as a college student, it's the biggest thing that I want to just keep riding it, and I'm trying to figure out these ways to keep riding it. But I want to say it's absolutely possible, just be a little bit more careful. So if this video helped you at all, maybe you drop a like, drop a little subscribe, a little bit of one, and hope you have a good day. Have a good riding. Have a good ride well and ride safely. And you don't slip and die. Yes, it is.
Wow. I believe I've seen you because you've been to town.
Yeah, yeah.